What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Accidental Isolation, where I like to bring on the guests to speak about a story in their life where they may have found themselves alone, whether that be physically, mentally, or emotionally. Today we got former NFL vet, mental health advocate, man. He's about to open up his own yoga studio. Doug Middleton, man. How you doing?
What's up, brother, man? Appreciate you having me on today, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man. First, I'd like to just thank you for the time. I know everybody's time is precious. I'd like to thank you for coming on to the platform and giving the listeners someone to listen to, man.
For sure, man. I believe in you, man. I think you got a good vision, so happy to help you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. All right. First, I'd like the listeners and viewers to get to know you a little bit. So tell us about where you're from, how you grew up a little bit.
Yeah. So my name's Doug Middleton. From Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I was born and raised there. I went to Parkland High School. I left Winston-Salem to attend Appalachian State in 2011. I went there and got my degree in political science. I got my master's in public administration in 2018. While I was also there, I played football. I was a freshman All-American, freshman All-Conference. All-Conference my junior year, and then my senior year, we won the first bowl game in school history. I left from Appalachian State and went on to the NFL. Went undrafted to the New York Jets in 2016. Played with the Jets 16, 17, 18. Was released in 19 and signed with the Dolphins a few weeks later. And then went to the Jags and was with the Jags 19 and 20. And then in 21, spent some time with the Panthers and 49ers. And last year, finished up there. So, that's kind of been my journey with football. And then I guess outside of football, who I am, I'm definitely a believer, a man of faith. I'm married. I married my wife, my college sweetheart. She played softball at App State. We're in the same class, stayed in the same dorm room since our freshman year. And then now we live out in South Charlotte. And we're opening a yoga studio in South Charlotte. It's gonna be called Dream Yoga and Wellness.
Yes, sir.
We also have a foundation, Dreaming Impossible, where we help educate, break the stigma, and connect youth and student athletes to resources.
Hey, man, that's dope, bro. Like I said, you one person. When I moved to Charlotte, one thing I wanted to do was work on networking.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful when I met you, especially you started the yoga thing, and I'm doing my yoga certificate.
Yeah.
And you just being a mental health advocate in the field where we're athletes.
Sure.
A lot of times mental health is put on the back burner.
Yeah.
As well as we're black males. So we kind of have that double down on us that mental health is as big in our communities. And that's one thing I just want to bring to the light. So like I said, hopefully our listeners and viewers be able to learn from your story a little bit.
Yeah.
So me and you, we talked beforehand.
Yeah.
We know what the definition of accidental isolation is.
Yeah.
So tell us what that looked like for you. When was that moment in life, or those moments in life, and what that looked like for you?
Yeah, I would say more of moments in life for me, man.
Okay.
As far as isolation, anytime you're on that journey to success, you're gonna feel isolation at some point in time because you may not always have the right people around you that got the same goals as you and really the same vision. And then also when tough times come up, I can definitely remember, my first look at accidental isolation. Anytime we have, we lose something that's so important to us, and that's football. My sophomore year in college, I broke my left ankle. And after I broke my left ankle, a few weeks later, I got into some trouble. Got a drinking ticket on campus, was kicked out the dorm rooms. And that was one of the toughest times of my life where it was just like I lost my identity with football, and then also just really a tough change in my life, having it upended in college. That was definitely a huge moment of isolation. Another huge moment was really in 17 and 18. In 2017, lost my best friend to suicide, and then a month later, I tore my right pec. And I missed my second NFL season to an injury. And so that was a really tough moment of isolation for me. And then in 2018, the following year, I got hurt again. And, as an athlete, I'm gonna just talk about that as an athlete first. Injuries are tough because, we've been doing the same game, playing the same game since we were 7 years old, man. I've been playing ball, and my mom just sent me a picture yesterday. Playing ball since 2000, it's 2022, bro. You know what I'm saying? So you're talking about being around the game for 20-something years. And so when you lose that, you struggle with trying to identify yourself, trying to struggle with what your purpose is and the reason for you kind of just being here. And, and it was tough just trying to find out what that was, but every moment of isolation that I went through, I was able to learn a lot from it, to grow from it, and really look back on it years later and actually see the reasons why I was put in those moments of isolation. And they seem tough at first. They hurt, but it's a lot that you can learn from it. And it's a lot that you can gain from it. And I just say that's just become part of my testimony.
First, I'm going to say, like, as far as the athlete thing, man, it's like, you're right.
Yeah.
In a way, we can kind of relate that to like everyday people. Is just about structure, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily the athlete being an athlete is what it is 100%. It's about the structure. Like growing up in life, we're in elementary school, we're in middle school, we're in high school. We know what to do.
Yeah.
We're told what to do. We got goals and inventions that's set in place. We don't have to choose any of that thing, right? So as far as athletes, when we get injured, it's like, this is what we were doing our whole life, and then now it's done, right? And granted, in college, you're not done playing. You're going to be back, because that's how the college system works. You'll be back. You just got to fight through those injuries, and let alone like those injuries mentally just affect you, because you have to come back. One, you have that fear of being the same person or still be able to progress and be better than what you were, and two, you have those coaches talking to you. You got those coaches telling you certain things like, "Hey, we need you back." Or sometimes they aren't talking to you at all. And it makes you think like, dang, man, what am I doing wrong? What's going on? And you just have that mental cycle just going through your head. Yeah,
so I want to add on that because not sure who the exact audience, I'm sure everybody on here that's listening is not just athletes. But, as an athlete, I feel like a lot of the same issues that we go through are the same things that people go through in life. It just looks a little bit different. When we lose, when we get hurt, we get cut. That's just like a normal person losing their job.
Exactly.
That's like a normal person not being able to put food on the table for their families. And so that's the same way that I see when I get injured, or the same way that I see when I lose my job, is that, hey, this identity, this, a lot of people struggle with trying to find their identity outside of their job. I mean, that's how you bring it back to just normal, or just really, you look at a stay-at-home mom, they struggle with trying to figure out who are they more than just a mom to their kids, and so, I feel like athletics is very similar to everything that the normal person experiences in life, and then but at the same time it's just a lot more scrutiny, and then it's just a higher level of pressure, because it's like, man, like you did so much to make it to this avenue, to this platform, and so when you make mistakes, it's like your mistakes and your failures are really magnified. Magnified, and everybody in the world sees them. And compared to like just somebody who may make a mistake at their job, and then their boss say something one time and that's kind of it. You make a mistake at the highest level, and it's like, shoot, everybody sees it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody feels like they can be your coach and tell you what to do.
Exactly.
And including your family. You know what I'm saying? So. That presents moments of isolation.
Exactly.
Where you like, man, like, it's just like, seems like everybody in the world out to get me, or you feel like everybody in the world against me. And
who do you talk to?
Yeah, who do you talk to? You know what I'm saying? And who do you confide in? I think, just working with the NFL over the last few years with their mental health and trying to get some things in the action, like that's a big thing. Is when these tough things happen, first we need to identify what are the toughest things for our athletes, okay? Like death in family, injuries, getting cut, those are all the magnified things. And for example, if you take it outside of athletics, it's the same thing, for people that don't play, death in family, loss of job, change in financial situation, some type of trauma that they've experienced, whether it's some type of abuse, all of those things that are really impact us all. Impact us all. And so once we realize what those things are, now we got to put an action plan together. You know what I'm saying? And we got, and you talked about that. What does your circle look like? What does your self-care look like? How do you get yourself out of that moment of isolation? And so I don't want to go right to the next question, but I mean that's certain things you got to start looking at too.
You're 100% right. And I think one of my biggest themes, and not something that I themed the show as, but just from all our previous guests, is like community. So
Right.
we just spoke about the circle you have, and it's like the community around you. I spoke with a gentleman, he played Matthew Coburn. He was on the episode earlier. He was talking about how he was in the CFL. So he was blessed to be able to know what he wanted to do outside of football. And he was able to express that to his circle. So when things happened and people got cut, his circle knew what he wanted to do, so they were able to push him. That's great for him. But a lot of people don't know what to do, so then they have to, even if they have that circle, right? If they haven't expressed to their circle who they are outside of what they do, it's a lot harder for them just to be able to adjust or find their new path. And a lot of times that's when they shy away from that community. Because that community doesn't know what they want to do, they feel like they can't help them. But it's not that they can't help, they don't know how to help.
They know how to help.
Because we don't communicate as well.
And
that's learned behavior. You know, you got to learn how to communicate. Go ahead.
When I was just saying, like, man, as men, especially black men, I feel like that's some things that we have to, improve on as a whole. Is our communication. People can't help if they don't know. And like a lot of people always say, well, you never tried to help me. Well, you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me that you were, going through whatever you were going through. And so I think the biggest, the biggest regret that I have, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so motivated in the work that I do with mental health, with my friend, that I lost from suicide. He did tell me. He did, explain that he was suffering and that what he was going through. And that, I think at that point in time, when we look back, 5 years ago at the resources that were available now, then it wasn't a lot. And at that point in time, I felt like we couldn't find him the resources that he needed. Now, fast forward 5 years later, the gamut of resources that are available for us are endless, And so if you do reach out, if you do state that you're going through something, number one, you have a circle. Number two, there's so many other options that's out there to try to get you help. And so I think that's where I'm at with it is being able that we need to first focus on communication. And as black men, being able to talk and express ourselves and let other people know when we, when we're going through things, because, we can't just always put out the success. We got to put out some of the losses too. And so, I always love, following a guy like P. Diddy on Instagram, because he's definitely motivational, but he's also, he'll let honest. You know, he's honest, what I'm saying? This is hard too. You look at guys like, another guy like Steve Harvey. I love listening to Steve Harvey, man. And it's all about how we turn the hardships in our lives to success, man. That's what it's all about.
I had a guest on there, actually is going to drop tomorrow. He just speaks about, he talked down on himself a little bit, which it's okay if you could do it in a good sense, but it's like he learned, he was a failure. He mistake after mistake after mistake, but like he also took accountability, which is something we have to do, is take accountability in our mistakes, because it's not luck that things happen to us. Like our actions cause what we what happened to us. But he was able to take accountability and just like understand why he was a failure. So what not to do the second time.
Right.
You spoke about, your friend, right? And how he took his life. And I think just how you were speaking about just people in general not thinking we have resources or not knowing we have resources. One of the things is like expansion equals exposure, right? So that's another reason I want to bring this platform. And that's probably another reason you're doing what you're doing, because there were resources. We just didn't know about those resources. But you're never going to know until you're exposed to it. Right. And once you're exposed to it, that's when you expand. Like you said, like once you took it serious, like mental health serious, start doing advocacy work about it, you started to learn these other resources. And they didn't just come up once you started thinking. You just started learning about it. And that goes from that loss that you went through. Like that put you through whatever it put you through, and we could talk about that a little bit if you want. But then the action, like you said, you have to have an action plan. The action plan about that was, I don't want to lose any more of my friends, families, and I don't want anyone else to take their life, even if I don't know you, right? So what can I do, right? And that's what you started to do. You started learning the resources and trying to put them out there and things like that. So I want to talk a little bit more about you a little bit. I know you mentioned your first running into like an isolation was sophomore year in college. You said you ended up getting hurt, and then you, on top of that, you got some trouble. Let's talk about it a little bit. So what was going on with that?
Yeah, man. So that was actually, somebody just asked me about that a few days ago. But yeah, in 2013, what was it? 2012, going into my second year in college at App State, playing against ECU. I did a lot to earn this starting job. I mean, it was times I went through camp at that point in time and got a concussion. Came back and ended up making the move to corner from safety.
Okay.
No, I was at corner. I was moving from slot corner to outside corner.
Okay.
And so I earned a starting job, just kept working at it. And in the first game, we were playing against ECU. It was about 100 degrees. First game of the year. It was just a tough atmosphere to be playing in the first one of the year. And starting to cramp up. But I didn't want to be taken out the game. You know, I took a snap off and it came right back. And then I had made a tackle on Justin Hardy. And then once I made that tackle on him, like my leg had just cramped at the same time and it got planted, and then I had just snapped my left ankle. And so at that time I went to the sideline and the trainer looked at me. He was like, "Yeah, man, like it's broke. You're gonna be out for the year." And you know, at that point in time, I didn't even like really comprehend what everything was going on. Like, and, you know, I didn't really understand it all. And so as I got back to campus and you know, I had that surgery a few days later. And then I think when I woke up from that surgery, like I really understood that, like, hey, like I'm not gonna be playing football this year. And so, you know, it was tough at first. You know, I had a lot of friends. I had a really great circle at that time of guys that was helping me through it. And just really picking me up and literally picking me up, helping me get to class. You know, if you've ever been to App State, it's mountains everywhere, so it's not the easiest campus to be crutching through, you know, and so just crutching up hills and mountains and stuff, and I had a lot of friends that would help me. And going into, once I started to finally walk again, you know, we were having some get-togethers at the apartment that we were staying in, the dorm room, and a couple people came in with some beers and stuff. And then it just happened to be my room along with my other 3 roommates. And they had friends, and we were all in there drinking. And at the age, I think we were only 19. And so, you know, the RA came in and said, hey, like, you know, everybody's going to have to get drinking tickets. And I wouldn't let them in the room. And then so I ended up being the only one that got a drinking ticket.
Because it wasn't your room? It
was my room, but I didn't want to let them in the room and give everybody else one. So, I took the fall for it. Yeah, I took the fall for it. And then I ended up getting kicked out the dorm for it. And then I was forced to really find somewhere else to go live, man. I didn't have a place to stay, bro. I was really just out of it, you know. And it was tough because now I lost the game of football. I mean, I was almost out of school. They tried to keep me out of school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was a lot that went with it. And so they wanted to get me out of school. They put me on specific probation. And what a lot of people don't know is, like, if I wouldn't have broke my ankle, I still would have missed that entire year, and I would have been in you know, more magnified trouble, because now I wouldn't have been missing a year because of the injury. I would have been missing a year because I got in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just one testimony of, like, you know, some things that happen in your life, you never really understand why they happen, and at first you're frustrated, but you never know what God is protecting you from, or what God is putting in your journey to be able to help you. And so I felt like that injury. I mean, that injury helped me. You know, it helped me a lot. You know, because who knows what my life would look like if that trouble was magnified. And then even on top of that, you know, I went around the locker room and I say, hey, listen, man, I was just going from locker to locker, just trying to find somebody that I could move in with, and because, you know, I slept on a couple friends' couches until I found somewhere else to stay. And these 3 white guys let me come stay with them. And, at that point in time, I moved over there into their apartment, and these 3 white guys, they were on the football team, but they were thinking about life way more beyond football. And so I really credit to them, you know, how they helped change my whole mindset. This is where my mindset changed, and this is where everything in my life shifted, because I started to see life as more than just, see my life as more than just an athlete. And so, like, one of my roommates was in a business school, and he was a starting center. His name was Graham Fisher. He was going overseas to China and studying in the middle of camp, and just coming back and still starting. I'm like, bro, how you doing this? Like they not tripping? He's like, nah. Like, as long as you take care of your business, they gonna be cool. And so then that's when I started. I was like, man, I can look at other things, and I started, you know, looking how to get more involved on campus, and I became a student senator on campus and stuff, and started to, you know, look at do some internships and really pursue my master's. And that's when just life really just changed, man. ever since then, I just been thinking with that mindset.
Nah, that's like you said, and then you gave them credit. Like that's huge because, like you said, like you were just an athlete in your head. Like, this is all I got to offer.
Yeah, that's all I got to offer.
All I can do is play sports, and many of us think that, bro. Like whether it's music, whether it's athleticism, or whether whatever the case may be, many of us think that those are our only options out. And it's not true. And then once you like I said earlier, expansion equals exposure. Once you was exposed to like, hey, you can do other things. As long as you get your job done on the football field, this is what you're here for.
Right.
We paying you to do this.
For
So
sure.
as long as you get your job done on your football field, which is just like in regular life, as long as you go to work, you do your job.
You can be
you
more
have
than that.
24
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Like, you have 24 hours,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can put time into other things besides athletics, right? And I think it's even more accredited to the fact that you still made it to the NFL.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people feel like, well, if you gotta be at the top, you gotta
only focus on that.
only focus on one thing, and that's just not the case. You don't want to stretch yourself thin, but you also can have you can have multiple focuses.
One of my coaches always used to tell me, like, keep the main thing the main thing. The main thing at that point in time was football. I always kept the main thing the main thing. But like you said, there's 24 hours in a day. And so, I would train, do what I would do for football. It was a couple hours a day, but then those other hours, I would be looking for the next avenue, trying to learn, try to find other mentors that could really help me go where I want to go outside the game of football. And if you look at a lot of, NFL players, and it's another person that I can credit to that really changed my mindset on the NFL level, Brandon Copeland, because, when I first got to the NFL, like you said, I'm like, locked in, like I don't want to lose this opportunity. Like I'm just
especially going undrafted.
I'm undrafted. Like I can be cut at any point in time, and I just want to play ball, and that's it, man. I don't want to do anything to mess this up. And so it was two people really, Brandon Copeland and got another guy, Kelvin Beachum, and both of them are still doing well. And those were two guys that really defined more than an athlete, and they were always in different business moves and different things outside the game. And they just kind of took me under their wing and kind of showed me the way of different ways to leverage my platform as an NFL athlete and what I could be doing business-wise. And that's what kind of got my mind started to think. But, to really relate that back to mental health, it took a lot of isolation and confidence because, those are only a few guys on the team thinking like that. Of course, there were other guys, but a guy like me, undrafted, to be able to think like that, like it was very tough because, I worked my entire life to have this opportunity, and I didn't want to do anything to piss it away. And so at times I was really thinking like, hey, if I focus too much on these other things, am I going to lose this opportunity? And so mentally, that's tough to really comprehend and wrap your mind around. And but you gotta step out on faith, and I would definitely say it's benefited me over the years for sure.
Yes, sir. So man, like you got all these people around you, like they're helping you. You have this community around you. And they can, like you said, they guided you, they showed you the ropes and everything. But one thing I truly believe is you can have all the people around you in the world, right? You can have all the answers, but until you put action behind those answers, nothing's going to change. So, you got in trouble, you're sleeping on couches, you're going in with all these different teammates, and even in the NFL, you have these people guiding you. What actions were you taking? Like, what were you doing to work through these isolations and to work through these tough times?
Well, I would say, back then at that point in time, I really didn't really comprehend mental health and understand it, at the highest level until I got into the NFL. But I will say my senior year in college was probably the toughest year of isolation, and this had nothing to do with injuries. This was just life, My now wife was not at college anymore, and really I had a lot of pressure on the outside of wanted to be the best football player that I could be so I could potentially get drafted. And, it was really tough. And at that point in time, I started to learn, how to journal. I started to learn how to lean more on my faith. I started to learn how to really talk with others about what I was going through. And so that was what got me out of that moment of isolation, because it lasted for about 10 weeks. And it was probably still to this day one of the toughest things and toughest journeys of my life, of just trying to figure out how to get from that
What did those tendencies
Yeah.
look like? What is the isolation like? What is your, not necessarily every single day, like your day to day, but like what did it look like? Like, did you already had to, especially as an athlete, you have your community around you.
Right.
Do they notice? Like, do they see this? Are they noticing the change or your attitude, how you play, or just even your classmates, your teachers, your coaches, like your mama?
Yeah. I mean, people know, like everybody notices. Like, you know what I'm saying? My teammates notice that, hey, I'm putting a lot more pressure on myself. Like, people are walking up and talking to me like, hey, you know, like, why you put so much pressure on yourself? My parents are noticing that. Like, my friends see the decline in my play. Like, I mean, everybody notices it. I think at the end of the day, you know, you're really the only one that's going to be able to get yourself out of it. Like, if you don't want to get out of it, it doesn't matter what other people recognize. Like, you got to want to do the work yourself. And so I think it was just came down to me believing in myself and reminding myself that, hey, I could do it, and hey, that I am the person, I am qualified to do this. And sometimes, you know, we just get into those deep moments and just start we telling ourselves the wrong things instead of, you know, reminding ourselves about how great we are. I was just listening to Sean McCoy give a story on ESPN the other day about, they're talking about how Tua had all the success now, and it's because, you know, Mike McDaniel just goes around and makes sure he reminds Tua the person and the player he's always been. And so LaShawn McCoy saying, you know, his running back coach Deuce Staley did the same thing for him. And sometimes you got to do that. You know, that's the same, you know, thing that I've taken in my life and taken in that moment of isolation that I had, is being able to remind myself that, hey, God has taken me through all these different trials and tribulations, and I've been able to overcome every single one of them. And so this one is no different than the ones in the past. And the same thing, you know, when we're talking about sports or we're talking about, you know, success on our job, like, hey, I'm the same guy that earned a job. I'm the same guy that had this success and did this project or scored this amount of touchdowns or had this amount of interceptions or did whatever I did. Like, remind myself that, hey, I can do it again. And so that's really what it took, because as your mind starts to get to spiraling and you know, you start to just really isolate yourself, meaning that you just want to be by yourself. And so I'm just like really just trying to get myself out of it by figuring out anything that I could do. And so everybody notices it. I mean, it's just like, hey, like they see it, but I mean, it's like shit. Like, you know, they can't do much about it until I decide for myself that, hey, I'm gonna get myself out of this and I'm gonna do the work. And I did the work. You know, I did the soul work. I did the healing, and I got myself out of it, and it ended up being one of the best learning lessons in my life.
And with that, like you said, like you knew who you were. Right. You knew, hey, I was a freshman All-American.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to remind yourself.
In the most cockiest and humblest way. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can be arrogant to an extent. Yeah. Like, I did that. I can do it again. You know, I fought through injuries, fought through troubles, I fought through all that, but I'm still here today, still doing what I was doing. I can continue to do it. And then that led to you being able to get the opportunity with the NFL, right?
Right.
And obviously that's a platform that everyone knows, and it's a platform that can set you up for life. Right. So now I hear and see that you're doing a lot with the NFL, trying to bring awareness and exposure to mental health. And I think it started, like you said, from after losing your friend and not having those resources. So can you tell us like a little bit about how that situation went? Like, I know you said that he was expressing to you certain things. Like, were you not necessarily actually comprehending what he was saying? Like, I know you were taking it serious, because as any friend is like, if a friend tells you you're going through things, like, you know, you listen, you care, you love them. And obviously, you, like you said, well, like we've been speaking about, you can't do things for other people, right? You could be there for them and things like that, but you can't physically do anything for them. But what was he doing? What was he showing you? What was his signs for anyone out there just listening to see if a friend's going through those things?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I lost my best friend in 2017. Suicide's name was AJ Morrison. 2012 is when about 5 years before is when we first started to see some signs. It really started to pick up a little bit in 2015, 2016. Those are when we started to see the signs of depression.
Okay.
So at that point in time, he was, you know, isolation, not wanting to take a shower, not wanting to go out in public places. You know, he experienced a traumatic event that really, you know, changed his life, and he saw life a little bit differently. And at that point in time, he got into a deep state of depression. And so as a friend, you know, seeing your best friend, life really just changed that fast like that. it definitely hits, especially as a student athlete when you don't know, your entire life you've been taught to just push through, overcome, just do another rep, give it everything you got. And so initially the conversation is more like, hey, it's not that bad, just push through, you can overcome. But then once you start to realize that, hey, this is something serious, now let's figure out how we can get you help. And so we even got him, in and out of the hospital, the psychiatric unit. We ended up getting him on medicine, ended up trying to find him a counselor. We did all those things, pretty much all the resources that they would list at the top. And still to this day, when I'm a mental health advocate, those are some of the same ones that I listed. Going to see a therapist, going to do some type of self-care, going to see a doctor, being able to get on medicine, being able to do different things that can help with your mental health. But these resources just didn't work. I think they didn't work because number one, what I mean by the resources that were in the past that were not there then, what I mean by that is that there was not as many readily available people of color that were therapists. That was not 5 years ago. That wasn't there. There wasn't a database that you could just go to and see a whole list of people of color, and they would have readily available appointments and people, and really just black men therapists. There wasn't a lot of those, and so especially that could relate to what he was going through.
Because you have to be able to relate, like counseling in general, it helps, and you have to put that work in. But at the end of the day, you have to feel comfort in who you're talking to.
Right.
You have to feel some type of trust. It is not that race is the end all be all
of
trust and things like that. That's far from what it is. But at the end of the day, being comfortable and being able to express yourself truly, especially if you need counseling, one of your issues might not be knowing how to express yourself.
Yeah.
So it starts with being able to be comfortable, right? So you can learn how to express yourself.
Yeah.
Like you said.
With therapy, I got one of my boys. He's a black male. His therapist is a white woman. It's not about race or anything like that. It's just like you said, whoever you're comfortable with talking to, and who do you feel like can help you, and so that's what it came down to. He just didn't find somebody that could help him, and it wasn't a black-white thing. But I do think, looking back on it now, there are people that I've met since his death that I know that could have helped my friend, and so that's why I say it like I said it. But I think losing him in 2017 after he just continued to suffer and continued to feel like he didn't want to be here, the medicine that he was using wasn't the best medicine. Of course, blood tests were available back then to where you could see what medicine pairs you up the most. We didn't know anything about that stuff. And I would also say just support groups. There wasn't, a lot. Just in the black community, you got to start there. These resources available, but we're in college. When he started to struggle, we don't come from a bunch of money or anything like that. So it's these resources may have been available, but these aren't things that we could easily access, and so as a young African American male, a lot of those things that people talk about seem very far away, and so we're left to just be able to handle our issues with just really talking with each other and just hopping on the phone, and really that's really all we could afford.
Resorting back to what we're used to. Like you said, expansions and exposure, so it's we don't know that stuff. We know, and if we see it, right? We have social media, we have on the TV, we see it, but it's a foreign language. It's a foreign language to us. We don't know how to do it, what the steps to take to get to it. Like you were saying, it was just.
Yeah, that's why advocacy work is so big, man. A lot of people, are struggling, but they don't know what the next steps are. A lot of people think you have to be a therapist, you have to be a psychiatrist, you have to be, a teacher to be able to help people. Some people just want, some people just want to be encouraged, man. Some people just want to know that they matter, that people care, and that, hey, somebody's listening to me, and that, hey, somebody, wants me to be here the next day. And so that's what it starts with, just encouraging people to be here tomorrow. And with my friend, we couldn't, get the right self-care plan with him. And I think the biggest thing that I learned is, like you talked about earlier, is the toolbox. I was very familiar with the fact that, just like an injury where if you break your ankle, you're going to have surgery. They're going to put, they might put a plate in it, but they're going to fix the bone, and that's the solution. Well, that's not how it works with mental health. It's not like, hey, if I give you this medicine, the same medicine that you took should have the same impact on me, or you going to see this one therapist just because you saw him. that same therapist had the same impact on me. That's not correct. And it's like everybody has a different routine. Everybody has a different self-care plan. And so to be able to notice that, it took some time, to realize that. And I think that was probably my biggest learning lesson, is that it's not a one-stop shop of where, hey, if I give you this resource, it's directly going to have, success on you and your life. And so, but yeah, since we lost AJ, we started the Dreaming Impossible Foundation, done a lot of work with youth and student athletes and African-American males. And we've helped over 10,000 youth, and it's been great, man. His parents are very involved, and we do a lot of work in our communities in Winston-Salem and in Charlotte. And yeah, man, I think, who knows if we would have done all this work if AJ was still here. Of course, I would love to have my best friend still here today, but I'm very thankful for the impact and the way that his life continues to live on.
So, man, you know, that happened, and then y'all started this foundation. So, along with that foundation, you're doing a lot of mental health advocacy. What all are you doing?
Yeah, man. I'm my work is it's a lot. I probably work anywhere from 30 to 40 hours a week just on just mental health stuff. Of course, we're opening a yoga studio, which is a lot of work, just trying to get it there. But it's called Dream Yoga and Wellness. It's gonna be in Indian Land, South Carolina, right south of Charlotte. And what it is a place, a luxury resource center where you can go in and do yoga, hot yoga, non-heated yoga, and you can also, seek a conversation with a therapist or psychiatrist. We'll also have, other wellness resources like an infrared sauna. Looking at getting, pairing with restored cryotherapy to maybe do some IVs and different things like that. So doing that. Also, this coming up week, I got a pharmaceutical commercial, where I'm just gonna explain just my mental health journey and how we've been able to help others and really not only motivate their staff, but also let other people know that the things that they are doing are helping people. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we got a commercial with Johnson & Johnson coming up this week. I do a lot of work with App State where we put on a lot of mental health programming. The last one we just did was last week, where we worked with the track athletes and sat them all down and talked about what does mental health look like from a student athlete point of view, and how we can how we can better support them, and what does their journey look like. And then 2 days ago, took all the guys at App State, all the football players out and trying to really encourage them and walk them through what their journey, not only physically but also mentally, mm-hmm. what their journey is going to look like as they make this transition to the next level, to the NFL. Also working on an app called Exta. It's called I Am Exta, and what it is a mental health database for student athletes. Okay. And so we've been working on that for a while. We're working on a pilot program with Howard University right now. We just been working on some calls with them over the last few days. Foundation Dreaming Impossible. We're about to start getting back into our program, and we hit it real hard this summer. Mm-hmm. And so our time that we really pick up our events is usually around the holiday time, and then also summertime. So starting to plan some of those events back up, and really just been hitting it hard with Giving Tuesday. We raised over $15,000 in the past 2 months. So that's been a goal for us. And then not only that, but working on planning out a golf tournament coming up in the spring. And then just going around speaking, man. I do a lot of speaking. I got a panel conversation I'm hosting at the Harvey. I think it's the Harvey B. Clemens. Can't get the right name, yeah. But it's the African American Center that's in Charlotte. Okay. Yeah, and that's gonna be next Thursday, I want to say, or next Friday. Maybe the 14th. I don't know. I got people that figure all this. I just show up, man. and so we working on that, doing a deal with that. Just talking about mental health and African American males, and it's gonna be a panel discussion I'm leading. And then I'm leading on Monday. It's called Beyond the Jersey, where we have an event that we're doing up at App State, where we're bringing up all our senior student athletes and we're bringing them all together with all our former student athletes that are in the business world now that have success beyond the game of their sport, and kind of connecting them with them and letting them know, showing them what the transition looks like and what the next level looks like and things you may go through, mentally to get there. What does that process look like? And like it's all some good work, man. It's been great. Just paired up with ADAA, the Anxiety and Depression Association. It's just been locked in, bro.
Nah, man.
It's been locked in. This been like just the last 30 days, man.
Yeah.
So it's just and then just coming up to try to close out this new year strong.
So what made you want to do this brick and mortar? I know you're a yoga instructor as well. But what made you want to kind of do that?
It's just the next step, man. We talked about all the stuff that I'm doing. Like, we got to keep progressing in life, and I felt like this yoga studio is just kind of the next step of what life is gonna look like, And so when I came up with this idea to go ahead and do the studio, I just saw every idea that I've been working on for the last 5 years in one place.
Yeah.
Dream Yoga, Dreaming Impossible, Extra, everything just being in one space and being able to help a lot of people. And then also, really, man, yoga changed my life in 2014. So I credit it as one of the reasons why I even made it to the NFL and one of the reasons why I stayed in as long as I did. And so, I fell in love with it even more when I did the yoga teacher training. And I've been able to teach yoga to other people and help them out. But yeah, I just saw a huge gap in the marketplace, to be honest. Like I traveled a lot around and went to different cities and tried to see different resources in different places, and I feel like Charlotte doesn't have like a luxury mental health resource. Like there's still a lot of stigma around mental health and yoga, and like it's only Pacific demographic that does yoga. And so I just want to make this shit cool, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna put a bunch of money in it to make it look probably like the coolest thing anybody's ever seen, and then in that way, it's not like, hey man, that's just, I'm not gonna focus on my mental health. Like people don't do that. It's gonna be like, man, like, dang, I see this person do it. I'm gonna definitely get on that. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And I see what this looks like, and so I just want to make it like make mental health cool, make it sexy, make it inclusive, make it common, like and that's what we're gonna do at Dream Yoga and Wellness, man. We're gonna do something.
Nah, that's
cool,
dope.
Man.
That's dope. And like you said, man, it's like we don't want, like, especially after COVID, like mental health has been something that's brought to the forefront.
Yeah, it's to the forefront.
Which is incredible. But at the same time, this isn't just, this is that mental health thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you said, we want to make it cool, we want to make it sexy, we want to make it a part of our everyday life. Right. Because our mental is never going nowhere. Like, that's the majority of us, you know what I'm saying, is our mind. So it's like we want to be able to make sure people understand, like, this isn't something we're doing. Right. This is something we gotta do. Nah. This is our everyday life. And yoga's just a part, like you said, I do it as well, but yoga's a part, another thing, just like working out, just like getting your pedicure, your manicure, just like every other thing.
It's a form of self-care, man.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And like a lot of wellness resources or a lot of healing techniques are very expensive. You go see a therapist, that's $120 every time you do it, but instead of paying, going to practice yoga as unlimited time as you want for $150, you know what I'm saying? And so that's what I saw, is I want to bring a lot more affordable luxury resources to our community.
Got you. All right, man. Before we wrap up, I just want to leave, like I said, I believe putting tools in the toolbox is a key to life, right? You can use one tool for 100 jobs, and then you can use, you can have 100 jobs and have to use 100 tools for it, So just leave our guests and our viewers, like, with a few tools put in the toolbox. Like, we kind of already spoke about it, along the conversation. But if you could just name maybe like 3 things that you think will be able to help people, and that they can put in their toolbox.
Number 1, I would say journaling. Journaling is big for me. It's a CBT technique, but I think it's very beneficial just to really write your thoughts out, kind of map through what, some of your goals are, and put it on paper, and, document your journey, so you can really look back on it and say, hey, like, I've been through this, but I was able to overcome it. And so when you face it again, you can look back and say, hey, I already beat this. I can do it again. And so that's one thing. Big into motivational, listen to motivational clips and videos. Love Inky Johnson, Steve Harvey, guys like that. I listen to a lot of faith-based topics too, TD Jakes, Stephen Furtick, and kind of just always listening to those things to build up my insides, because this world is still very negative, and in order to combat it, you gotta fill your cup up, and so it's like driving a car around. If you don't never put gas in, eventually you're gonna run on E, and you're not gonna be able to go far. And so then the last thing I would say, I would encourage people to do. I love yoga. Yoga has definitely been a huge help for me. It's hard to really describe it, 'cause, you know what I'm saying?
People don't understand. You just gotta do it.
But I'm not talking about just regularly. I'm talking about like hot yoga, like when you sweating and moving and your body's moving and endorphins flowing. Like it's nothing like it, And then when you're doing it to some good music too, So that's kind of my thing. Those are 3 things I would tell people, and then really just to tap in with each other, check in on each other. But those would be just my couple I could just name off the top.
Yes, sir, man. Like I said, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. Obviously, you're a busy man. Y'all heard him. Y'all heard his schedule, but I really appreciate you coming on and just giving me a little bit of your time. And like I said, I hope you guys out there listening can learn a lot from Doug, man. He has an incredible story. His story's not done. So if you want to keep up with Doug, man, I'm gonna go ahead and let him drop, his social tags.
So Dreaming Impossible is www.dreamingimpossible.org, www.dreamyogawellness.com, and then the social medias is 36DM_air is my personal, and then Dream Impossible is the same thing as Dream Impossible 36. And then Dream Yoga and Wellness for the yoga studio. But keep on the lookout. Gonna finally hopefully break construction before Christmas, and I'm telling you, I really don't even think people understand, but they're like, what this thing is gonna look like seriously, it's gonna look like the Disney World of yoga. I'm not even lying to you. So.
I'm excited for it, man. I'm in there. I'm in there. I'm gonna get a couple classes in. Man.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool, man, for real.
Yes, sir. Well, appreciate it, man.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.